Hi, everyone. We have a truly fabulous show today. You are going to learn so much from our guest. Her name is Amy Hanlon-Rodemich, and she is the soon-to-be Chief People Officer of Nokia. She is presently the Chief People Officer of Global Logic, which is a Hitachi company. So Amy has lots of experience and some very interesting ideas on the deconstructing area of talent management. So stick with us for the whole show. You're going to learn a lot. I'm Lorraine Siegel. I'm the founder, chair, and CEO of the Exceptional Women Awardees Foundation. We enable high-level women to reach their dreams. Why did I start this foundation? Well, I never had a mentor early in my career. Even when I became CEO of a number of companies, I never had anybody to guide me on my way. And I wanted to be sure that we could create a peer-to-peer mentorship where women who walk the road less traveled, just like Amy and myself, would always have a group of peer women, senior level women, to mentor them to reach their dreams. And that's exactly what we do at EWA. And we bring on our EWAs to tell you their expertise, their domain expertise, their experience, to share their thoughts with you. And so without further ado, let me introduce our amazing guest today, Amy Hanlon-Rodemich. Amy, welcome.
Thank you very much.
I am so glad you're with us. And first of all, tell us a little bit about your early career to where you are now as a Chief People Officer. Did you always dream about being in the people business?
Not at all. I actually thought I would go into advertising. But when I tried to get a job out of college, all they had were unpaid internships. And so that didn't really go anywhere. But no, I fell into it by accident. I worked for a small startup company and a software company, and did a variety of things for them in the beginning. And they finally sat me down and said, all right, you need to pick a career. You can go into sales or marketing or human resources. And I chose human resources because I really liked working with engineers and helping them fill positions and sell the company to prospective candidates. And it just turned out to be a perfect match.
Oh, that's incredible. So the engineering side of it, is that where you went first to VMware, or how did you move into the engineering area, being the HR person?
I know that I started off at a company that was actually powering search engines way back in the 90s. So they powered Yahoo, AOL, Excited Home. They were sort of the pre-Google search engine provider. And then I did a couple of other smaller companies before I landed at VMware in 2004. And then I was there with them for 9 years in a variety of positions. Always been in tech. That's been my second love. My first love being HR, second love being technology.
Well, that's very interesting, because I know you had some time at Synopsys, didn't you, as well?
Yes.
Okay, so Synopsys, VMware, Global Logic, and now Nokia. So this
is Yahoo as well.
Yes. So it's a tremendous career in the technology industry, and there are not that many people with human resource talent management expertise and technology. And I think that that's probably why you are going to go into your soon-to-be CPO position at Nokia, because that's a real opportunity. Would you agree?
Yes, I do.
Okay, terrific. Could you give us and our audience a little bit of a hint as to what that is?
Absolutely. And I actually have a few slides that I prepared to sort of talk about the concept overall. It's so basically what HR 4.0 is, and this is for lack of a better term, it's the next iteration of the profession. And it's based on the concept, at least in my view, it's based on the concept that we have three key paradigm shifts that are happening in our world today. First, we have the fourth industrial revolution, the COVID factor, and the millennials and Gen Zs. And so let me explain a little bit more what I mean by that. So the fourth industrial revolution, as we've gone through these different technological advances in the last several hundred years, we find ourselves right in the middle of the next one, which is the intelligence wave, which is smart everything, right? You have smartphones, smart cars, smart refrigerators, you name it. And that is changing the way we fundamentally interact with the world and with technology. Next, we think about the COVID factor, and this is really helping us think of how do we define the workplace? People are working from anywhere. They're there's a need for those collaboration tools, trying to drive engagement and everything amongst employees to make sure that they continue to stay engaged with their organizations on a standard basis. And then lastly, we have the various generations that are in the workforce right now. We've got the boomers, the Gen Xers, millennials, and Gen Zs. And these are all very different in terms of how they grew up in the world, how they interact with technology. And now the younger generations, it's predicted that'll be the majority of the workforce by 2030. And these folks are your digital natives. And so they're really helping us architect the future of what work looks like, especially when it comes to technology. So when we talk about HR 4.0, if we have to first quickly look back at the previous iteration. So you think about HR 1.0, which was the personnel department, as you probably have heard of back in the early 20th century. But leading up to that, it actually started way back in ancient China when they had people that were assigned to track skill sets of different laborers so that they could deploy them in a variety of different projects. Then moving into the second half of the 20th century, we moved into the human resources department. Started to become more strategic in many ways, was a response to a lot of civil unrest and a need for more quality control and compliance in the workplace. And then we start to move into HR 3.0, which is the people team. That really came about after in the early 2000s. And this is moving the function more towards strategic and consultative with heavy focus on employee engagement and growth. I used to joke that back in the 90s, as management, we were taught to find what people were doing wrong and correct it. And then when we flipped over to HR 3.0, it was, we'll find what people are doing well and exploit it. And not in a bad way, but, try to capitalize on that, on those strengths. And so now we're moving into this next iteration, taking these three paradigm shifts into account. For me, what this really means is we're flipping the pyramid, right? We are flipping it from focusing on the executives and the managers of the organization to putting the employees at the top. And what I mean by that is really activating that employee base. So we want to pull them in to help create solutions, because these are the folks, especially as as the younger generations start to take over and they're more and more of those digital natives, they're the ones that are helping us craft what this looks like in the future. So as we're thinking about new programs, new opportunities, we pull them in and get their opinions and their thoughts along the way. But other than that as well, we're really looking at pulling the lens out a little bit and looking at folks as more than just a human resource, but as a human being. And how can we as employers really create the best possible experience for people, not just on the job, but what can we do? How can we contribute to their lives in general and make their experience even more enjoyable while they're here? And so this really pulls in a lot of need to focus on, specific benefits, personalized learning, reimagining performance management, which is a whole nother topic in and of itself, but it's a need to really revamp and reimagine a lot of the existing ways that we interact with human beings in the workplace. So if I can summarize this, it really comes down to what I like to call the perfect marriage of digital and human interaction. So a heavy focus on how do we create the best possible digital experience for employees that is mobile enabled so that they can interact with their phone to get the answers to the questions that they have, get some, like almost like a Siri type experience where you can find any answer to any question you might have. And then you can free up a lot of your HR team members to really focus on going really deep on engagement and a collaboration within the team and keeping that human connective tissue really going there. So that is a very long-winded way of me trying to explain to you what HR 4.0 is. And I don't know what it's going to be called yet. We haven't come up with a good name for it just yet.
Well, that's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I want to encourage our audience, please put in questions. We would love to answer them. And you have a unique opportunity having one of the world experts in human talent management right here with you today. So take up the opportunity and put your questions in. We'd love to hear them. Very, very interesting, Amy. And I guess one of the things that hit me between the eyes is 72% of the workforce is going to be employees that are in that people mindset already of being the human being, not the human resource.
Mhm.
That's got to be a challenge for the boomers, the Xers. How say you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a completely different mentality. I mean, when I'm a Gen Xer, and we were raised that you go and you do a job, and you focus on your job, and you don't really expect a lot more from your employer in terms of, like, they're not there to provide you meaning or purpose necessarily. You're supposed to find that on your own. And more, a lot of the younger generations are really demanding, hey, I'm looking for purpose and meaning. I'm looking for a company that shares my values. I want to know that my company will take a stand on important social issues, and is willing to give back to society, that cares about the environment, that cares about social causes, and is willing to put their neck on the line out there. And a lot of us older generation, it's just not something that we really did. There are a lot of things that we shied away from in the past, and there's a heavier demand for us to take a stance, and to really show what we're standing here for. But beyond that, as far as their on the job experience, they want more than just come to work, do a job, get your annual raise. They're looking for, give me an opportunity to really stretch my wings in a lot of different ways. I'd like to move over here and try something different. They grew up during the gig economy, where a lot of people would pop around and from project to project, for example. And in some cases, it's easy to do that. In other cases, not so much. It really depends on your industry. So it is a challenge. It presents a challenge for us to try and keep those folks engaged and interested and motivated. And I think it's presenting a big challenge to employers all over the world.
Yeah, it is. And more than that, I'm thinking as a board member now, I need to add to the enterprise risk list that we have, taking a stance on a social issue, because not everybody is going to take agreement with the stance that you've taken. So it really becomes an enterprise risk of losing a portion of your employees because you took a stance on something they had the opposite point of view. What's your
Or
thought?
just by staying silent as well. That can be-
Yes. So silence is a decision as well. And as you say, we have a couple of questions that have come in. Thank you so much. Let's put up one that just I hear from our producer. That's from Alma. Hi, Alma. Thank you for that. I'm all for empowering Gen Zs and leveraging their digital expertise. What are your thoughts about how to elevate them and how to support them since they're relatively inexperienced? Okay.
I think talent comes in all shapes and sizes. Some of it is very well experienced and been around the block a few times, and others is just somebody that's right out of college and is super smart and has a lot of great ideas. And I tend to not discriminate when it comes to that. It just really comes down to, well, what do you have? What are you trying to solve here, and how can I help you? And I think with the younger generations, there's an opportunity to kind of tap into them to focus on solving big problems. They love this. So I do this all the time. We had, a couple of key challenges, like on the diversity side, for example. We were trying to establish our strategy regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we went out to the younger generations, and we asked them, questions. And we said, hey, how do you think we are doing in this space? And what do you think we could do differently? And what suggestions would you have for us to move this forward? And we got some fantastic ideas from them. Any opportunity that you can have to pull them in on problem solving is very motivating for this group of folks. It also really, if you can put them on a project, it gives them a chance to go build out some expertise and to get some experience to move quickly. Another thing that Global Logic did, which I think is really fantastic, is they built out this program that because what we were finding is that we were having a hard time finding digital engineering talent. We had mostly mid-career professionals, and that well was getting dry. And so we started to hire a lot of early career professionals and put them through an accelerated development program where they got some advanced technical learning, and then they had a series of mini internships that they went through. So they got that development, and at the end they were a more advanced digital engineer. So programs like that, I think, can be extraordinary to accelerate that.
you know, you can see, and I'm talking to the audience now, Amy, you can't hear this. You can see why she's such an expert. I mean, it's an amazing domain expertise. Very few people have what Amy has. There's a follow-up question from Alma, and then we have another one coming from Janelle I want to take. So give a short answer to Alma's. Related are the days of requiring X number of direct reports to the manager, director, VP, ever behind us?
I think they've been behind us for a while. Yeah. It's interesting because we used to, I remember maybe 10 years ago, we were heavily focused on span of control and how many direct reports one would have. And, you know, you've got to have so many in order to be at a certain level. Come on, that's gone. It really comes down to what is the impact of the role. If anything, I'm seeing more and more organizations try to go flat, and then they say, oh, whoops, that was a mistake, you know, and contract again. And it's trying to find that balance, because as a leader, I can tell you, if I have more than, say, 8 direct reports, I am not at my best. So you've got to, you know, find the right balance. But as far as span of control goes, I mean, in the tech industry, at least, it's not as relevant.
No, it's a big issue. Okay, next question is coming up now from Janelle Pittman. Janelle, what are you seeing as best practices to activate colleagues in developing the future of work?
Oh, my goodness. I think, so for me personally, I believe very strongly in crowdsourcing. And I like to take a big meaty problem like this and farm it out. So I have a million different tiger teams going at any given time to address different issues, partly because I recognize the fact that I'm not the expert necessarily, and also there are so many different opinions and thoughts and ideas out there that we should really leverage that, right? Especially from the younger folks. So when we're thinking about developing the future of work, this is really a fantastic opportunity to tap into that frontline talent and pull in the millennials and Gen Zs, or pull in some Xers and boomers, and get everybody together to say, well, how do we solve this? What do we think the future of work is? What can we do as an organization to take this forward? And every organization is different, so.
Yeah, there's no doubt. It is a time of confusion and opportunity. There's no question. We have lots of questions coming in, so let's get up some of the next ones that have come in. This is Sandra from Wilmington. Thanks, Sandra. This is a tough one. Many of our employees are not performing well, but we're so short-staffed, we cannot exit them. What is your advice?
Well, I think the first thing you got to do is figure out, why are they not performing well? There was a management training class I used to teach. We talked a lot about what is the reason behind. Is it a skill, a will, or a hill issue, right? Are they lacking a specific skill? Is there some sort of a hill in their way, something blocking their progress, or is it a will issue, meaning they just don't want to work? And my experience has shown that the will is extremely rare. Most people come to work and they want to do a good job, and they think they're doing a good job unless they're told otherwise. So as management, it's really good to take a step back and try and figure out, well, what is keeping them from performing, and then try to address that specific issue. If you have a situation where you have a bunch of people with will, well, you know, there's different things that you can do to try and motivate. There's, you could have some rewards programs. You could have contests, especially with the younger generations love gamification. So it's always, I've found it to be very effective to add gamification in to try and hit certain milestones, for example, things you're trying to accomplish. That can be very effective as well.
Yeah, that's very good ideas. You know, there was a Wall Street Journal article, so I'm going to read from it so I don't misquote it, just on the 29th of this month. And they said it's on quiet quitting. Many companies are renewing their focus on what employees put out, at the same time that a lot of workers are recalibrating what they put in. What do you think?
I think that COVID has really affected us dramatically in many ways. And one of the ones that's most dramatic is none of us anticipated the burnout that was going to happen because of COVID. So we shifted from working in an office to working from home, and that completely blurred the lines between work and home life. And because, oh, hey, you're at home and you have access to your computer, you must be online 24 hours a day. And so this expectation was set, and we found people just working around the clock and burning out. And now they're asking themselves the question is, is this how I want to live my life? Is this really how I want to continue moving forward? And a lot of them are saying no. They're either pushing back on their existing employers, or they're saying, I'm going to go look for something elsewhere. And I mean, it's a sort of an interesting phenomenon that happened because of the pandemic. And you see a lot of employers trying to react to it in different ways, like, oh, we'll have some mental health programs, or we'll do this. Well, how about addressing the issue? How about saying, hey, let's not work 24 hours a day. Let's instead focus on building some guardrails and giving people back some of that work-life balance so that they don't have to be asking themselves those questions.
Yeah, very, very important and tough to do for employers that are more in the industrial revolution area and haven't quite come into this 4.0 area of HR. Let's look at the next question that came in, because this is a very interesting one, and let's bring that up. It's Rodney from New York. Thanks, Rodney. Younger employees seem to need more hand-holding and don't work as hard as older ones. Oh, I know you're going to have a nice answer on this, Amy. How do you manage this?
Well, I think it's interesting because, first of all, sure, I mean, anybody that's younger is going to need a little more hand-holding in the beginning, right? Because they're learning. They're newbies. They've got to understand, anytime you get started in a corporate environment, you have to learn the culture, the practices, the cultural norms, all that. But I have not experienced them as working any less hard than the older ones. I've seen them, they work differently, right? They often work in fits and starts, right? So they'll work very concentrated for a shorter period of time, but they get like twice the work done. They're actually incredibly effective in this regard. It just doesn't look the same that some of us might be used to. I was laughing about it because I remember it, years ago in my career, I would work, 14-hour days, but was I really focused that whole time? No, we were chatting or, just hanging out in the office, and then, you got your work done. And then now you see them, these younger workers, they really get super focused and they're just go, 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 go. And then they'll relax and they'll take time off. And it might look from the outside like they're not working hard, but they really are.
Yeah, so there's another question that just came in I want to share, because this is one from Evelyn. And I think it's interesting because there have been articles coming out now, if we're going into recession, do you think salaries will diminish in 23? We had the great resignation, the quiet quitting. Do you think we're going to have the quiet firing or certainly reduction of salaries in 23 and 24?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, it's kind of like the real estate market. At some point, it's eventually got to normalize itself, right? It has been so crazy. I have not seen a labor market like this since the late 90s. I mean, I'm still battling, but we're starting to see it slow down a little bit. We were the last 6 months, especially. It's just these crazy offers that people were getting, and it's starting to slow down. So I think we will start to see it normalize pretty soon here.
So does that mean that people who are in high salaried roles are going to be exited, or is it going to be, how does it normalize when you're hiring in people for similar work at lower salaries? How do you deal with the ones that are already at the inflated level?
That's a good question. I've never seen this type of acceleration in a long, long time. I think what we'll start to see is as depending on where things go with the economy, of course, you are going to start to see companies experiencing reductions in force, and they'll probably look at some of those higher salaried employees first. I mean, that would make sense. But you'll also start to see, well, gosh, 6 months ago, we might have brought you in here, but now we're bringing you in here, right? Mm-hmm. The ones that are going to, really pay the price are the ones that have been with the organization for a long time and didn't have the benefit of these market movements. They've just been in the same position, receiving the standard salary increments over time. So it's going to be interesting. I think we're in for an interesting ride here.
Yeah, I think that HR professionals, talented professionals, are going to be really involved in a lot of strategic discussions with other members of the team, because it's going to be difficult. There is no playbook. We don't have a playbook for this.
No, exactly.
And so we have another question which has come in, and obviously this gentleman, Troy, has been researching Global Logic, Hitachi, and Nokia, so and knows that Global Logic has operations in Ukraine. So he's asking, has the Ukraine conflict impacted your role? And I know you have lots to tell us about that, Amy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this between the pandemic and the war in Ukraine, it has taught me a lot about resilience, not only my own resilience, but the resilience of human beings. And I'm just astonished. The Ukrainian people, from the start of the war, they handled everything themselves. They were amazing. I mean, they got their friends and colleagues to safe places. We have 7,500 people in Ukraine, and we got about 1,500 of them out of Ukraine. The rest are all in safe locations. And they were working the whole time. They're amazing. They just kept going. They said, look, this is our company too, and we want to make sure that it continues to be successful. And they just kept plugging. It affected me a lot because I had to shift gears and say, okay, well, how do we respond to this? What do we do? And by the time we were out there trying to put some plans in place, a lot of the work had been done by the Ukrainian people themselves. They were just that quick. They were that smart in their reaction. But it was been a very humbling experience for me because to just see people, I would be on video chats with people who are, in basements or, shelters, and they're working. I had conference calls with people they just looked exhausted, and you'd ask them, are they okay? And they say, oh yeah, we just had an air raid siren go off at 2:00 in the morning last night and had to go down to the basement. So overall, I would say very humbling, and big lesson for me in resilience.
But Amy, you went there. You went to Poland twice, didn't you?
Yeah, I did go to Poland. We went there to mobilize, get everybody working together to put an action plan in place to get everyone to safety.
Amazing. Amy, you're a tech entrepreneur. In addition to everything else that you've done, tell us about that amazing opportunity at Hitachi and why you came up with this idea and how it happened and how EWA had a little part in that.
You're talking about my app. So about, oh goodness, this was 1.5 years ago. My mentor was giving me a hard time because she said I was too stretched. I had too many things going on. And I was kicking and screaming, no, I need to be on all these boards and I need to teach this class and I need to do this. And she said, no, you need to trim down everything so you can focus. I finally took her advice. And as soon as I did, this idea that had been sitting in my head for like 6 years popped out. And the idea was something that I collaborated with a team over here on. We came up with this idea for an app that would take all the things that matter to you. It would ask you questions about where do you want to go in your career? How high up the ladder do you want to go? What's the ideal time frame? Do you want to move to a different location? And even questions about your, what are you trying to focus on for your financial wellness, physical wellness, to what are your hobbies? Everything that encompasses your life as a human being. And the app would take your responses and create a success profile just for you. And that way we could send you custom content, events, activities, you name it, that's truly customized just for you. And because it's powered by artificial intelligence, it will learn from your behavior and adapt. And so we entered this into the Hitachi Innovation Contest, and we ended up winning the whole thing. So it's in production right now. We think it's pretty cool. It's really about, trying to deliver that personalized experience to people and use the data that comes in to really make critical business decisions so we know what to focus on.
I think it's amazing. And of course, the mentor you're referring to is your EWA mentor. So we just, we love this story. And I know that it's just an amazing aspect of your personality and your skills, Amy. So good luck on that. I think it's an incredible opportunity. I know that Global Logic has had tremendous value from you and Nokia will in the future. And we're so happy that you're on our board at EWA and that you're part of our organization in every aspect. Thank you so much for being with us. I wish we had another 2 hours, but I know we're going to get more questions from our audience. Please post them in LinkedIn or whichever area you're streaming from. Just put them in there and we'll try and get Amy to answer them. Thank you, Amy, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's always sad to end a show with a wonderful thought leader in EWA like Amy, but of course we have a question for you. And our question is going to be about how you manage your talent in this particular day and age. Lots of challenges for sure. And have a look at my email, which is up on the screen, and hopefully you can send me your answer and we'll forward it to Amy and maybe you'll get some good comments back. And in addition, this is not our last show. We always have wonderful shows for you. And there's another one coming up. It is one of our EWAs. Her name is Ina Hull, and she is the Chief Operating Officer of Legacy Education. She is going to talk about disruption in higher education, the whole deconstruction of higher education. And Ina has made a study of it. She has tons of data. She's really knowledgeable. You're going to love hearing her on our show. So please join us for that. In addition, we want to make sure that you go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. This particular show will become a podcast on Amazon Music, Spotify, and Apple. We're going to rerun it through LinkedIn and other streaming platforms. So if you missed any of the insights from Amy, make sure to have a look at it again. And of course, we want you to join us for our next show. Have a great week, everyone. Bye now.